life well lived. What does that mean? How's it going, guys? So I was just kind of pondering on that phrase here recently. This morning, my wife's uncle passed away, and he was in his late 80s. Super charismatic guy. Had a lot of love to give. He gave a lot of love. I mean, he started developing dementia a couple years ago, and up until here recently, he was remembering my wife and I for sure, and even our kids to a certain degree. You could tell he was still able to talk. And last Sunday, we went go visit with him, and he had just had a stroke like that week before, and half body paralyzed type deal. Still remembered my wife and I. So still happy, still had a sense about him. And so now that he's passed on, the phrase "a life well lived," and I pray that is said about me. But the issue that I have, it's hard for me to see that, because my experience is I don't know what's ahead of me, and I don't I don't see everything that God has in store for me. There's a lot of ups and downs and valleys and all that kind of stuff, and so as I'm in a valley right now, it's hard to imagine people would say that was a life well lived. But overcoming that valley would be a life well lived. Overcoming the suffering by connecting with Jesus, offering it for him to take your weight and work at doing what he's asking you to do would be a life well lived. Excuse me, I got some sinus issues. But a long story short, having somebody say that was a life well lived is a compliment, I think, in at the very least, and it should be known that you successfully completed your time on earth, that enough people thought enough about you, or saw enough about you and saw Jesus in you, that they thought to think and say, I'm going to be sad, and this guy exhausted everything, in what life is all about. And we all pray and hope that we go straight to heaven. But there's points and times, and just like with my wife's uncle, I know him and I have had some close conversations about being business people, that it gets super scary at times. It gets, excuse me, not just in business, but, excuse me, man, it's tough. Not just in business, but in your personal life and your family, and like, especially as your family gets older, and they say small kids, small problem, big kids, big problems. And so at the end of the day, that's what we're striving for. I just spent the weekend at the Crescio, which is just a beautiful experience for the people going through it, and a beautiful experience for people working it like me. And there were some people that I gave a talk, and they were like, man, this was excellent, pat me on the back. I'm like, man, if you only knew what's going on in my head and the struggles that I face on a day-to-day basis, that is self-inflicted, that I beg God to help me with. Like, would you really, be patting me on the back? And would somebody say that guy, if I die today, that was a life well lived? I don't know. It's hard for me to see that. It can be very difficult for me to see and digest that. Going through suffering, whether it's self-inflicted, whether it's not by your own, but just circumstances, which I have a lot of all that going on right now, and so I pray for people that if you're going through something that you didn't do, but it's a part of what's happening, I pray for you. If it's self-inflicted, meaning like you made decisions that were not good and now you're paying the price, I feel you on that regards as well. I'm guilty of that just as much as I'm in my life. I've seen plenty of things that I have no control over, and it's just a situation that I have to deal with, and it can be unmanageable. It can be hard to digest and to think about. And so, you get a combination of both sometimes, which I feel like right now I am getting that. Or it's just the devil all in my head telling me these things, that things are worse than what they are. And typically it is. Your mind will always wonder, because that's designed by the evil one to make you feel destitute and without faith and hope. But my hope and faith lies in Jesus. And I pray that whatever I'm going through now, and whatever you're going through, that we keep the faith day to day, minute by minute. And at the end, as we get through it, as we get through this life and this world, that when we go visit with Jesus on the day of our death, that he says that it was a life well lived. Because people may or may not think that, but Jesus is the only one that matters in that regards. Jesus is not just in that regard, in all of life. And so I wanted to share that with you today as I continue to go on my path. I'll pray for you. I beg that you pray for me. And if there's anybody with prayer requests, just go ahead and put it underneath the comment box. And know that I'm praying as much as I can, not for me, but just to do what God wants me to do, God's will. That's what I pray for. That's why I pray for you as well. God bless.